10 questions on toddlers hitting, biting, and throwing things.
There's 4 things that children are either born to do or they're never going to do. It's just in their DNA.
She started to unprovoked hit, kick, and push other kids at the playground. When we separate her and tell her off, she does not react or show any emotion or remorse.
They don't understand remorse yet. Where is the consequence? You got to use consistent corrective action.
Is it a phase or just new temper tantrum tactic?
Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, what's this topic? I don't know what day it's going to be posted on. So I was going to say, what's Tuesday's topic or what Thursday's? Oh, shut up, Lisa. Anyway, what are we talking about today, sweetie?
Today's topic, it's going to be 10 questions on toddlers hitting, biting, and throwing things.
10 questions on toddlers hitting, biting, and throwing.
I have it as 10 questions because I know that you say that this one is like a quick and easy for you.
Yes.
And so I think we have 10 questions from 10 parents, more because you talk about the fact that this is, you kind of explain it once and then it's kind of the same consistent corrective actions. But I think there's 10 different scenarios that parents have that maybe will resonate with listeners at home.
That's a very good way of framing this because it isn't something I can generalize about. So you just use a consistent corrective action. The end. But if you use specific situations, I can be more specific. Okay, very good way of doing this, sweetie.
Before we get into this, I have a couple questions. So do all toddlers have this behavior?
Tantrums? No. Or hitting or biting? No. There's 4 things that children are either born to do or they're never going to do. It's just in their DNA. One is tantrums, one is running, one is climbing, and the other one is hitting or aggressive behavior. They either have that in them, it's already in their DNA. They're born like this. They either have it in them or they don't. You didn't have any of them. Your brother had tantrums and he outgrew them pretty quick because they never worked. But yeah, it's just in their DNA. So it's not your fault that they do these things, but it's your responsibility to train them out of them. And that's what we're going to get into.
And then what age do you consider a toddler?
A toddler to me is 16 to 35 months. Give or take, it could be 14 to 18 months to 35 months. But it's right around 3 is when they have the ability to learn how to stop and think and reason before they act. And you want to get them young with this, so they will do that.
You can see it too. Like just out in public, I saw this poor parent, they had their hands full and their toddler was a runner. Oh. And he just took off and the parent was chasing after him, fast little thing too, screaming, Walter, Walter.
Walter. Oh, that's such a cute name.
Such a good name. And just booking it. And he was but you see it, like they just run.
Yeah. Yeah. But they either will or they won't. And those are the same kids often who are also climbers because they have no physical fear, right? They'll often be the athletes of tomorrow. Makes sense, right? I was a very cautious little child. So were both you and your brother. We were all very cautious. And my granddaughter's also a cautious child. So it doesn't mean they won't be good at sports, but they're the ones who are runners, who don't have that caution. They often are the ones who throw themselves out into sports really physically and can be very good at it.
The last thing I want you to go over is consistent corrective actions. It's actually really, I love this. Your audience online has coined the term CCA.
I just wrote down CCA. I just literally wrote that down because I've never done that before. Consistent corrective actions is just, it has to be right in the moment with a toddler because this is all toddler stuff. Am I right? Okay. It has to be right in the moment because they are in the present moment. They're not in yesterday. They're not in tomorrow. They're right in the moment. So you've got to follow all this bad behavior up with a consistent corrective action, which means you start it by saying no, so they'll know it's coming. And then you just remove the fun from them or remove them from the fun. Not always possible, which will come up, I'm sure, in these questions. It's not always obvious is what I mean. But yeah, consistent corrective actions is all you get. And it's all you've got with a toddler. It's not about a behavior board and we'll deal with this later. They don't do that. And you've got to be consistent. If you're not consistent, I don't know why, but kids remember when you mess up. They don't tend to remember when you did everything right. They remember when you did everything wrong. And the reason is that's what worked for them. That's all about them. right? What works for you, they're not going to remember because it didn't benefit them, but they do remember when they got away with something. So if you're not consistent, it's not going to work. And they might learn, it might take 50 times, maybe even 100 times before they actually learn. A toddler will touch a hot oven 10 times, but they might not touch it the 11th. They're not really thinking about it. It's just sort of a knee-jerk reaction. They'll get used to the fact that when they do act out, when they do that thing they shouldn't do, they just sort of subconsciously will know something negative's coming. That's what you're after. They're not going to think it through. It'll be more subconscious, like the hot oven.
And you mentioned that they're not on a behavior board. So that's why you have your boot camps split up the way they are.
Yeah, I have 2 boot camps, one for toddlers under the age of 3 and then one for 3 to 12-year-olds. I don't have a teen one yet. That's coming. But anyway, not right away, but it will be here soon. Not right away, but it will be here tomorrow.
I'm like, for the love of...
Yeah, mother, because she does all the planning. She's like, Mom, shut up. Jeez. Anyway, but yeah, they will, they just learn differently. Okay, so at the age of 3, they can stop and think before they act. They can think before they act. Toddlers, not so much.
Okay, so we're going to get into the questions. If you are trying to find one that feels relevant to your situation, we do timestamp these as well. So in the description, you should be able to find that.
Ooh, fancy. Time stamping. Ooh.
Fancy.
That's my daughter. She does all that stuff.
It's a little bit more work, but I love when podcasts are time stamped. So it's probably just more like I enjoy it.
That's very good because there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that won't pertain to anybody. And then there might just be one thing. Do you do that to all videos?
I do. Not social media, but all podcasts.
No, I meant the podcast.
Yeah.
That's sorry. Oh, wow. That's so smart. That's why she does what she does and I do what I do. It was funny because one day, I think it was on a podcast, we were talking about this. And I said, geez, I don't think I could run this business without, or this business couldn't run without you. And she goes, well, Mom, you're kind of important too. Because I thought I am the front person, but I always think I couldn't run this the way it's running without her at all. And we have very separate jobs. There's no crossover in our jobs at all. So we're very independent in how we work. But yeah, you do all that fancy stuff. I never look at the podcast, so I don't even know that it had timestamps.
All that fancy stuff.
Yeah, fancy.
Okay, I don't know what I'll timestamp this conversation as. Just
okay, Mom rambling on. Okay, go on.
Okay, the first question is Holly from New Zealand. Our son is 2 years and 8 months. We've started ignoring tantrums, which is working so far, but our issue is that he throws things which is hard to ignore. Food, drinks, toys, cutlery, anything he can get his hands on. Dinner time is when the majority of meltdowns occur. How do we deal with this?
When they throw something, you just say no. If he's doing it through a tantrum, you don't even talk about it. You just go over and take items away from him and then restrain him so he can't grab anything else and throw it. Only hang on to him for about a minute. Then you're not looking at him or talking to him. You're just physically restraining him from throwing things. Then you let go. If he goes for something again, don't let him throw again. You get in there quick. When he goes to grab something else, you grab him and you just say no. You can say no, but don't overdo it. And then you're not talking to him other than that. And then you look away and you just wait. Let go again. If he goes for something else, grab him again. It's going to get ugly, by the way, because you're doing something new. He's not used to this and he's used to winning. Like he's used to getting away with more usually. So they will fight back harder initially. It usually gets worse before it gets better because you're bringing in this new parent, this new style. And they're like, I remember the old you when I used to get under your skin. Now you're not going to get angry. Just wait till you see what I got up my sleeve. And I always say they don't think before they act, but sometimes I think they do when it comes to that sort of thing. Why aren't you smiling at me?
Sorry, I'm
looking over. I keep trying to get a reaction like this. And she's like this, just sitting there. You're reading. I know you're reading.
No, I'm Googling a word because I don't know what it means and I don't know how to say it.
Okay,
in the next question.
Spell it out.
Are we going to move into the next question?
No, I want to know that word.
Antecedent.
Antecedent.
It's Antecedent.
Antecedent. I don't know what that is
I've never
either.
used this word before.
I've never ever used it. Is it a word?
It is.
What does it mean?
So it means a thing or event that has existed before or logically precedes another.
Oh, must be a professor. I have never even heard of that. I'm 64 years old, not to say I'm bright or anything, but I've never heard of that word.
Should we go into the question with this word?
Yeah, I want to know now.
Okay, so Paige from the United States. How should I respond when my just turned 2-year-old randomly hits or throws object at my 6-month-old? It seems to happen so out of the blue. It's not when she's super mad or during a stressful situation. It seems to happen so randomly, so I'm not seeing an antecedent. The only thing I think of of is maybe she's seeking attention, but I obviously can't just ignore her because of her safety. So that's why I was distracted, because I was trying to figure out how to say that.
Yeah, you looked like you'd gone into another dimension. Her face looked so serious. Okay, now 2 years. So you got a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. You've got to be supervising at all times. If you've got a 2-year-old who is physically aggressive, which is what that is, they have that in them. So you just say no throwing around the baby. And then every time they do, then you take something away and then give it to the baby. You play with the baby. You reward the baby. And will this build resentment? No, usually they just get mad at you, not the baby. And you do not allow the 2-year-old to join in. But also make time every other time that you're playing a lot with the 2-year-old and the 6-month-old together, so that they equate fun with the 6-month-old, not just jealousy. So when everything's good, try and play with both of them together. I used to play balloon tennis with my kids a lot, especially when I was cooking dinner. I'd set up balloons in the other room with the coffee table, and we'd play. That would be the net. So we'd go over the net. And, the witching hour is when you're cooking dinner. So I'd say, okay, go in the other room. We're going to be playing balloon tennis. So I had like a newborn or a baby, and my son would have been 5 or over. He was 5 when she was born. And so I'd go in there when I was cooking dinner. I'd grab the baby out of the pram, and that's where she slept. I rolled her around the house, so she was with us all the time. Anyway, so I'd grab the baby out of the pram. She was my racket, and I'd use her to hit the balloon with. So I'd bop it with her head and everything. She was fine. It was just a balloon. But I included the baby in the fun that my son and I were having a lot, but more just like she was my tennis racket that time, or, so try and make the fun around the baby also. But when he is being aggressive with the baby, you say no, and you take that toy or whatever, and you sit and play with the baby, and don't let him join in. That's his punishment. You're aggressive towards the baby, she gets some one-on-one playtime with mom or dad. And he'll be mad at you, not the baby.
Okay, the next question is Isabel from Spain. Hitting, pushing, and kicking other children unprovoked. My daughter, who's 2.5 years old, she was home with us for 2 years and started a Montessori nursery last October. Before that, she never hit, kicked, or pushed anyone. Apart from starting to hit and kick us to get a reaction, she doesn't do it when she's mad. She started to unprovoked hit, kick, and push other kids at the playground. When we separate her and tell her off, she does not react or show any emotion or remorse. Most times she laughs or smiles thinking it's fun. How should we tackle this behavior?
Well, she's never going to show remorse. Never going to show remorse. She's never going to show remorse. Oh, for goodness sake. She's never going to show that because she doesn't have it in her. They can't empathize yet. She's too little to empathize. The only reason they look like they feel bad about something is when you get upset. That kind of scares them. Like, let's say that she kicked you and really hurt you and you started crying. She might look upset and then say sorry, but it's because she's scared. It's not because she's remorseful. There's a little bit of a difference there. Anyway, they don't understand remorse yet. So you don't want to let your child, when you're with your child, you be right there. And if she goes to hit someone, you say no, and you grab her and you take her home. There's no way I would let her stay at that park if she was going to get aggressive. She will eventually learn. Is it going to be hell for you? Absolutely. But you got to go through that so that she's a nice kid and she can play nicely with other kids. If you keep allowing her to do that, she's going to keep doing it and other kids aren't going to want to play with her. Okay, now at home, if she hits and kicks you to get a reaction, you said, and then you say, no, you shouldn't, where's the consequence? You got to use consistent corrective action. If she hits you, you say no, and then you might take a favorite toy away. Make a big show of it. Say no, walk over fast, grab that favorite toy and put it away. So she will associate the toy going away with her hitting you. And then don't allow her to do future hits. When they get used to making contact, they're going to do it more often. But when she first hits you by surprise, if you didn't see it coming, then you say no, put the toy away. Future hits, you prevent it. But you don't talk to her. You can just physically restrain her from hitting you again. But if she's at daycare, and hitting, there's nothing you can do about that because you're not there. It has to be in the moment at that age. Let the daycare do that. But if you master this when you're out with her or with it's just you and her at home alone, then she won't hit other kids anyway. She'll grow out of it if you handle it properly.
Okay, we have Shannon from South Africa. My son is nearly 17 months old and has started to throw things when he is upset or doesn't get his way. I often don't know how to respond, especially if it's something that could be broken or if it's at a person. My question is, what do I do? Is it a phase or just new temper tantrum tactic?
It is a phase, and you can get him out of that by, it's going to take time though, because it's in his DNA to do this kind of stuff. Like I said, they're just born to do this or they're never going to do it. So if you see him going for something, you say no, and you take it away and put it away right away. And then you prevent future tosses of things. Plus, how many things does he have around to toss? Like I'm kind of more of a minimalist. There wasn't a lot of things around for my kids to throw. I didn't have very many toys out or anything, but if you saw them going for something, I would say no and physically restrain him for a minute or two. Then let him go. If he keeps trying to throw, you restrain him again for another minute or two. You just keep doing it and doing it and do it until he gives up and he stops going for things to throw. He will eventually learn. It's going to get worse before it gets better because he's used to winning this stuff. And he's going to fight harder and harder to win.
Okay. We have Simone from Australia. So I have a 30-month-old toddler and a 10-month-old baby. I've been listening and loving all your podcasts, especially the ones about toddlers. You say with the toddlers that everything's about consistent corrective action. My toddler has just started hitting and randomly throwing things. I'm confused on how to consistently correct this because there's nothing to take from him and he doesn't really care if I move him somewhere else.
Well, you said he's throwing things. Isn't that something you can take away? And if he's hitting, you physically restrain him. So you hold him. And you do it by, I can't really show this if you're not watching, but you hold them at the lower arms, like just below the elbow, and you hold them down at your side. So, and you're both facing forward. So your hands are going down and holding onto his arms. And you're both his hips are your knees kind of thing. You're both facing forward. It's harder for them to hit, bite, or headbutt in that position. And if they drop to the ground, you just try and hold their arms and physically restrain. And then if they are not throwing things or getting violent again, you just let them go. Let them have the tantrum. Be nearby, but don't look at them or talk to them. That is feeding it. Any attention is tantrum food. But restraining them is not what I'd call attention. Restraining them is preventing them from getting worse, preventing them from being mean and throwing things.
And I would assume the goal there is just to make sure no one gets hurt.
Also to show them that you're not letting them throw things, even if people can't get hurt. You don't want them throwing things.
The next question is Tori from Australia. So this one is about mealtime. So you're not nutritionist or anything, so we won't be discussing that part, I'm guessing. So it's how to deal with a 2-year-old who is not eating breakfast or dinner. He screams and throws his food or flips his plate on the floor, and I don't know how to respond to help him understand that's not okay.
Well, yeah, I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but we're not discussing food. We're discussing the behavior around it. That's quite different. So if he's not eating breakfast or dinner, it must be eating lunch. And how many snacks is he having too? He probably knows that there's a tastier snack coming up behind this breakfast that he doesn't like. That's what I'm guessing. So maybe hold back on the snacks and say the snack could be the breakfast. So if he doesn't want to eat his breakfast, I would keep that until snack time. And that would be his snack. That's what I would try. And then if he's throwing stuff, I would say no. And then I would hand feed him. Use a spoon or a fork or whatever, the baby stuff. And then you hand feed him. He'll probably push you away. That's okay. He can do without a meal for a few hours just to learn this bad behavior is not going to be tolerated. So don't put anything in front of him that you think he's going to throw. You hand feed him. Or you maybe put one thing in front of him, like one little piece of something in front of him. If he throws it, say no, and then you hand feed him. They don't like that, by the way. Or if they do, okay. If they do like being hand-fed, some of them do. So if you want to train them out of that, you just I always call it get slow and stupid and clumsy. So you just hand feed really, really slowly. Look, oh, shoot, I forgot to do that laundry. I'll get to that. So you stop feeding. And if they're hungry, their mouths are going to be open waiting for it. And then the idea there is that they'll get bored waiting for slow, stupid, clumsy parent to feed them. And then they'll start doing it themselves. But yeah, I'm guessing this kid's holding out for the snacks or the meals that he prefers. Is my guess.
Okay, the next one is Zana from the United States. I have 2 daughters, 2-year-old and 3-year-old. My 2-year-old gets upset easily and starts throwing things or hitting me or her sister. She will scream, hit, bite if things do not go her way. For example, if her and her sister are playing and her sister takes a block that she wanted, she'll jump on her sister, hit her, pull her hair, etc. If I get involved and try to explain to her that there are other blocks or that she can't hit, she gets more upset, starts screaming and hitting me and crying. What am I doing wrong? How can I handle that better? And how can I make sure that she doesn't hurt her sister in the process?
Okay, well, I'm guessing you're going after the wrong kid. What's that 3-year-old doing to cause that? It's usually the other kid that causes that, almost always. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. People tend to go after the hitter, not the antagonizer. Like, is the 3-year-old starting it? because she knows she can take that piece. She knows the 2-year-old wants it. So I would just separate the toys and say, here's your little basket of toys. Here's your little basket of toys. See how that goes. But I'd be watching them like a hawk. And then if the 2-year-old hits, I'd say no, push them away. And then I'd say to the 3-year-old, you antagonized, you teased, you whatever, and then put that on the board. No teasing your little sister. So it's usually the other one that starts it. Parents always go after the hitter, but that's the retaliator. What caused it? I go after the one who started it. It usually is the other one.
Next is Hannah from the United States. 18-month-old is constantly banging his head on the floor, wall, couch, toys out of anger and frustration. Not sure how to react or get him to stop.
Okay. This one's such an easy one, but God, kids hate this. You can buy a foam helmet online or anywhere, and it was invented for children with disabilities that maybe have seizures or whatever, health issues, and it's just a foam helmet, and it's a protective helmet, and it goes down quite low around their face and that. So if they are going to hit their head, I'd say no, and you slap that foam helmet on, you'd be surprised how quickly they learn not to hit their head. They hate that helmet. So a ton of my clients have tried that, and they said, my God, it works fast. Because kids instinctively know, if I hit my head, that helmet's going on my head, and they hate it. So I would give that a go.
I wonder if I would have liked it, because with my little KFC bucket.
She had this bucket, like a plastic bucket from KFC, and she used to ram that on her head and like push down, her ears were all stuck out to the sides, and she'd push her little shopping cart around with that KFC bucket on her head. So you might have liked the foam helmet. Most kids hate it, though.
Okay. So Casey from the United States. My toddler is 18 months old, but she is constantly rough or hits with me, her mother, but is much softer with her dad. Why is that, and how do we work together to lessen that? I do believe that she does need that high sensory play more often than not.
Well, I don't know what you mean by high sensory. Do you have active things she can do, like maybe play, skipping with her or something physical? Maybe that's it. But also the fact that she goes after one parent more than the other could just be your response, or could be she sees you as the weaker one. Maybe she's more afraid of dad, or I don't know. I have no idea. I would have to assess. I could figure it out if I was talking to you. But anyway, I don't know why she's going after you more, but that's not the point. The point is that you don't want her going after anybody. So you just use the same procedures that we've been talking about. But if you've time-stamped and you're just listening to this one, then you use consistent corrective actions. And every time she goes to hit you, you say no, and then you restrain her if she keeps coming at you. She will eventually learn. She's only 18 months old, though. You could actually try a little bit of indirect redirection also. So if she is having a fit, but if she's trying to hit you, you still physically restrain her. But once she's calmed down a little bit and she's still going, then you could maybe just start reading her favorite book in a corner on your own, out loud to yourself. And the idea is she might join you later. But if she hits you while she goes and sometimes they'll come over and they'll hit you. When you are doing that, I would get up, close the book, get up and walk away and say no. So that's a really good opportunity to take fun away, because you've just invented leverage. You're sitting reading a book. She's got access to you to hit you. And then when she does, you say no, get up and walk away.
Okay, we have one final question. So Adriana from the United States. Hello, I was wondering, how do I stop my 18-month-old to stop biting and hitting? I try my best to say no and pull him away. He cries, but then continues to do it.
Well, just let him cry or physically restrain him when he keeps coming at you. You have to. Parents, they think that ignoring a tantrum is not physically restraining, but physically restraining is still not attention. It's just literally restraining them. You're still not looking at them or talking to them, and that's what they want. They don't want, being restrained physically is not the contact they're after. So that's not what they want. So yeah, you just physically restrain if they keep coming at you. And you might have to hold them for quite some time, but they will eventually learn they can't get away with that anymore. And you don't hold them for 30 minutes. You hold them for 1 minute, let go, or maybe 2 minutes, like a minute or two at a time, and then let go. If they come at you, then you grab them again. Okay?
Okay. That was everything.
Oh, that was it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. I think if we're dealing with one of these topics that I do struggle to come up with some general conversation around, which is toddlers hitting and biting, I really like the way you framed that, put questions, specific questions, made it a lot easier for me. And for you too, because, for me to just say consistent corrective actions, that's what it is. But if it's around a specific situation, it makes it a lot easier to understand. So well done, sweetie.
Thank you.
Fancy.
Thanks, Mom.
Okay. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll be back again for the next podcast, which I hope you can join us for. Happy parenting. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the Behavior Board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.